Christine just signed on.
Oh, did she? I'll say hi to her. Since I see her face. I have to look for it.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, there she is.
Oh. Hey.
Hey, Ming.
7 o'clock. And so it is time for BCCO. I just arrived from Houston. I was working with the symphony there, and I have a funny story before we get started. But last month I worked with San Francisco. Last week I worked with San Francisco Symphony, and this past week I worked with Houston Symphony. But they couldn't be more symbolic of the various regions, right? So San Francisco Symphony basically said, "Hey, because of COVID time, we have." Because of COVID time, we're not going to be doing winds, no brass, no audience. Everything's going to be taped. There's going to be maximum 8 people in the orchestra. And so they're basically just chamber music, but we need a conductor for some things, and everybody's going to be tested beforehand, etc. And then Houston Symphony.
You're mute.
You're muted, Ming.
Sorry, Ming. That was your host who did that.
Did you hear what I said before?
We missed some.
Most of it.
Just the last 30 seconds went away.
San Francisco, yes, not Houston.
So we should have one of our volumes
So
up.
Houston.
I'll listen to yours.
Houston was really funny. They said because of COVID restrictions, we have to let you know that the concerts aren't going to be as normal. So there's only going to be 50 people on stage with wind and brass, only 500 people in the audience, and then testing. Just get tested within 2 weeks, and it should be fine. And then we'll take your word for whether your temperature is okay. Just let us know. And they did that for all the orchestra members too. And I was like, oh, this is very, very less stringent than in San Francisco. So, but I'm in quarantine right now, and so I don't have access to the piano. But I'm really excited because we have one of our superstar former members, Eric Choate. If you remember, he was one of our assistant conductors, who now has a phenomenal career as an organist, conductor, composer. As we mentioned in previous rehearsals, he just had one of his works performed by Voces 8, which is this amazing chamber choir group out of England. And then, of course, he is the music director for the San Francisco Boys Choir. And the way that boy choirs approach their repertoire is very much more like the technique that we do for chamber choir than it is for symphonic chorus. And so I think that we're really lucky to have him here, not only because he's a fantastic person and a great musician, but also because I think the experience that he's been doing, especially recently, is very tailored toward the type of repertoire that we're doing nowadays. So with that, I would like to introduce Eric before we get started with the warm-ups. But Eric, hi, how's it going?
Great to see you. Everybody, it's so very good to be back with you. I think about all of you often and feel at least sort of tangentially connected with you because Julia Morris, your fabulous assistant conductor, is also on our conducting staff at St. Mary's. So Julia and I are in contact frequently, and she updates me with how you're doing, and I'm so proud of her, and this is a really big honor for me to be back with you. So Ming, thank you very much for the invite. I've been looking forward to this for the last week.
Yeah, it's so great to have you, and of course see you, and it's just, I miss sort of making music together. I miss all those times. So we had a lot of fun times with BCCO, so I'm glad you have a chance to work with the chorus, and yeah, I'm just going to pass it over to you pass it over to Julia, so.
Yes, I'll pass it over to Julia, who will take us in warm-up, and then we'll get going on repertoire.
Okay, great. Hello, good evening, happy Monday. Welcome, Eric. Welcome back, actually, welcome. All right, so with our warm-up, let's all begin standing as we regularly do. So sitting up nice and tall. I'm just going to make sure that I'm set to gallery so I can see all of your lovely faces as we warm up. All right, so setting up nice and tall, let's reach up to our ceiling, imaginary sky, nice and tall, and let's clasp our hands together, intertwine our fingers, pull your palms up to the ceiling so you feel like you have Even more length through your side body as you're stretching. And let's just lean one way for a nice good stretch. Whew. And then the other way. I always forget how tall I actually am these days, crouching over the computer all the time. And then let's come back to center. And then very slowly, we're going to pass through cactus, so we're not getting cactus tonight. But very slowly, let's lower our arms. As you do, feel like you're bringing your shoulder blades together, back and down, so that you feel like you're kind of sliding them into your back pockets until your arms are at your sides. Then roll your shoulders back a couple times. And then forward. And then just give it a good wiggle, shake out. Blah, blah, blah. You can shake your tongue out if you want. Let it all out. All right, and then come back to a nice center position. Let's relax our neck a little bit. So bring one ear over to that one shoulder, so you're getting a nice good stretch in the opposite side of the neck. And to deepen the stretch, you can do one or of two things. You can take a hand and just apply just a gentle amount of additional pressure. You're not trying to yank your head over, but just adding a little bit of extra pressure, I suppose, to deepen that stretch. And or you can take the arm that belongs to the shoulder you're stretching and kind of pull that hand down towards the floor. And you might feel it deepen in the shoulder. Particularly for me, I feel it like right here when I do that, as well as the neck. Let's give that a couple more seconds. And then let's roll it over across our chest, roll your head over to the other side, same thing. If you want to deepen that stretch, go for it. Same thing that we talked about. Either or, both hands involved. And just a couple more seconds. Focus in, as we always begin to stretch, start to focus in on your breathing. Because, I mean, stretching is focusing on making sure we're relieving tension, we have great posture, all of that great stuff, which is important to singing. But as we start our warm-ups in general, start to get into the kind of mindset that you need. Maybe if you've had a difficult long day, starting to get into the mindset for singing. So coming back up to center, go ahead and just check towards your feet to make sure that they're underneath you, but hip width apart, right? And you can have one slightly in front of the other if you feel like that gives you a little bit more balance. So just check that, and then make sure to bend your knees a couple times to remind you to relax them. And then tall posture, so standing up nice and tall again. And let's do some breathing together. So one hand on the belly. I'm gonna do this so we can do this together. One hand on the belly, one on your ribs, between your bottom two ribs, so somewhere right around here. And we'll breathe in for 4 and then out for 4. I'm gonna add lengths, I'm gonna add beats as we go, so just keep your ears open as we do. Keep your eyes closed though, so you can really focus in on the experience of breathing. And as we've talked about before, feeling like your breath is falling into a water balloon, like as if you're filling up a water balloon. Or Ming's favorite, like you're dropping a sack of potatoes and they just drop and go everywhere, right? So your breath comes in and just very full, fills you up all the way around. So here we go, breathing in for 4 and out for 4. And breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. Let's do 6 this time. Here we go. And in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In, out. Now let's do 8. Here we go. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and in. This time on the exhale, we're going to start hissing. 5, 6, 7, 8, hiss. Keep going for as long as you have breath. So this is not like a counted 8-beat hiss. Just keep going, keep going. I'll give you a few more seconds. Really feel that engagement of the belly as you hiss out. I'll give us a few more seconds in case some of us are still going on a nice long hiss. All right, now this time let's get one more hiss in before we start singing. And we'll breathe in for 4 this time, and then hiss out for as long as you can. Again, focusing on a nice laser focused hiss as you do. So trying to keep the breath consistent and not a little wobbly, but really finding a nice stream of air, a consistent stream. Here we go, breathing in for 4 and then hiss. And breathe in. I'm out, but I'll give you a few more seconds in case anyone else is still going. All right, I saw some very, very dramatic, I'm done with my hiss. All right, so let's do some singing. We'll start with lip trills and we'll sing. Breathe. Last one. All right, now let's jump back down here. As a reminder to make sure that we're all muted as we sing. But let's now do a nice relaxed sound. Before we do, let's do a nice siren kind of on a descend. So we'll start high and siren down. As you do, focus on getting a nice lifted space in your mouth. Lifting your soft palate, right? Making a big space in your throat. So breathe into a nice yawn space and then try to keep it open as you sigh down. Here we go. Breathe in with a yawn. And trying to keep that nice lifted space, we'll go. And keep it light. Last one. All right, this next one, everyone go, eh, eh.
Hey.
That was beautiful. I heard someone's beautiful A. And now everyone go, oh, oh. And now we'll go, eh, oh. Trying to, hopefully you can feel a nice forward placement of the A sound, right? It feels a little nasally, A. When you open to the ah, try to keep it also in that nice forward place so it doesn't go, eh, oh. But eh, ah, right? It stays forward. Everyone do that with me. And eh, ah. So now we'll try to sing that and we'll go, eh, ah, and try to keep everything nice and forward. Here we go, ready? And eh, ah, eh, ah, eh, ah. first one. And now let's practice our legato staccato as we did last week as well. But trying to find the biggest difference between the two, right? So it's not where the staccato is still kind of connected. We want instead where each note of the staccato is nice and detached, right? And the legato, you are finding the space between each of the notes to sing through using your breath, right? Imagine that you're kind of hissing through that phrase as you sing to find that connection. So it's the connection of the first half and then the detachment of the second half. And don't forget that we use our diaphragm, ha, 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 for those ha, 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 ha. So everyone actually, before we do this, just to practice, go, everyone go, ha, 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 and use your diaphragm for that. Ready? And ha, 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 something like that. All right, so use that space. Here we go. Ready? And one more. All right, and let's do one more exercise. This one to kind of extend our range and make sure that as we arpeggiate and jump between each of these notes that we're not kind of scooping in between. So this exercise, that we've sung for a few weeks now. But again, making sure that we're really precise on the notes as we sing up and down both ways and not that we're not finding the space in between these notes, right? With the breath we are, but not with our notes. So we want to make sure to be very precise about the note placement as we sing. Let's try it. Really nice round O and ah. So the corners of the mouth come in for both. Ready and go. Couple more. Here we go. Last one. All right, fabulous. All right, I'm getting a note from Christian. Thank you about my mic gain. I'm sorry if my higher notes were fizzing out a little bit. But with that, let's do one last siren together and take a nice deep breath in. This time we'll start from the middle of our range and work our way up top and then back down. Still nice space, like that nice lifted yawn space as you breathe in, and keep that as you sigh out. Here we go. All right, and that ends our warm-up. So now I will pass it back to Eric.
Great. Thank you, Julia. That was wonderful. I feel like I've warmed up for the first time in the last 10 months. Thank you. Okay, before we go out into breakout rooms, I want to unpack a little bit of something that Ming said at the beginning of rehearsal, and that is that the music that we're singing this semester is obviously different from the symphonic music to which you are accustomed. And I think, therefore, we need to approach this music differently from how you prepare the Verdi Requiem, for instance. Think of this as chamber music. We have orchestral music, and then we have chamber music for the salon, a string quartet and piano. And then in the choral world, we have symphonic music. And in this type of music, with minimal accompaniment, often a cappella, and we need to approach it with a completely different sensibility. Something that hugely informed my own philosophy about choral music and choral singing happened to me about a year and a half ago. Ming mentioned the group Voces 8 out of London, and they came to San Francisco in October or November of 2019, 6 months before the pandemic. And they performed at Grace Cathedral, and of course I went and I attended their performance. And I sat about a third of the way back in the nave. If you've been to Grace Cathedral, you know that it is massive, and that if you sit any further than halfway back, you're not really hearing direct sound from the performer, but you're hearing more reverberation than anything else. So in this case, I feel like I was in an ideal place in the cathedral to listen to them, about a third of the way back. So I got equal parts direct sound from the choir and reverberation. And my big takeaway, this is a group of 8 people, hence the name Voces 8. My big takeaway is that they never exceeded a mezzo forte dynamic. Even when I'm certain the music called for a forte or even a fortissimo, they understood that if they exceeded what their voice would allow them to do beautifully, that they would sacrifice intonation, that they would sacrifice blend, and that they would sacrifice color. So their dynamic range was from about triple P, pianissimo, to mezzo forte. The following night, there was a private reception for mostly their supporters and some people who were well connected in the choral world were invited to attend. And so I went with Ragnar. And this was a private reception at a home in Palo Alto. And they offered a similar performance, selections from the night before, but it was in somebody's living room. There were maybe 25 guests, and of course the 8 singers. And it was a Palo Alto home, so it was a large home with domed ceilings, big space for a house. But this night, the night after, I heard them from about 5 feet away. And this was an utterly profound experience because this confirmed what I suspected the night before, was that the sound world that they live in never exceeds a mezzo forte. And I really took this to heart. Clearly it made an impression on me. And this is how I've chosen to rehearse with choirs from now on. And we have a mantra that we use at the boys' chorus, and that is never louder than beautiful. Even when I feel like the score is egging us on with fortissimo and sometimes even triple forte indications, I have to remind myself, and therefore the choir also, never louder than beautiful. Because the truth is, if you're singing in tune with a focused sound, and if you've matched your vowel to the person next to you, what happens is it excites the overtones, and the perception from the listener comes through as volume. Even if you may not be exceeding, let's say, a mezzo forte, if all of those things are in place, it still gives the listener the impression of listening to something quote unquote loud. The 2 pieces that we're working on right now, the Lords and Omani Mysterium and the Whitaker Seal Lullaby, I think are very good exercises for this concept, because truly neither piece is loud. I attended a lecture given by Morton Lordson, who's affectionately called Skip Lordson, about 10 years ago, and somebody asked about his dynamics with this piece. There are 2 points he made that I want to share with you. One is that he misremembered, but I feel like this is revealing. He said the piece never goes above mezzo forte. In this edition, that's actually not true. Maybe it was a choice of the publisher, but on page 7, measure 50, we do get a forte. Even so, bottom of page 6, measure 46, with the return of the opening material with the soprano descant on Alleluia, the temptation would be, of course, to mark that as a forte, and then maybe top of page 7, fortissimo. But Lordson was not tempted. And as a matter of fact that he misremembered that the loudest dynamic level in this piece was mezzo forte, I think is an indication of where this piece lives in his world. Also consider the text and the sensibility with which you would treat this text is revealed in the title, O Magnum Mysterium, O Great Mystery. I think this also very much holds true in the Whitaker Seal Lullaby. After all, if you were singing a child to sleep, I would hope that you would not exceed a mezzo forte, if you indeed want the child to sleep. For me, my preferred recording of the Lordson O Magnum Mysterium is by Paul Solomonovich and the Los Angeles Master Chorale. His recording, I think it came out in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s, before he died, before Paul Solomonovich died. And this is conveyed in the recording that truly we never exceed a mezzo forte. I've heard the Los Angeles Master Chorale perform once, and this is the case even in their live performance. The sound is a glowing coal as opposed to a burning fire. And that's the way that we need to treat this music. Under normal circumstances, this is a choir of 215 plus. And normally we're fighting an orchestra of about 70 to 100 musicians and singing large works like the Verdi Requiem. But this semester you're working on different music that calls for a different approach. So with that in mind, I want that to be the theme of how you rehearse this music today. So we're going to break up into sectionals, 4 groups. I believe I'm with the tenors. Christian, if we could please go until 7:55.
Okay.
Let's work on this in sectionals. First, the first sectional, please work on the Whitaker, and we'll come back and we'll sing the Whitaker together. And then we'll do the same thing in the second half. We'll work on the Lordson in sectionals, and then come back and do the Lordson together. So if we could do, please, sectionals for 25 minutes-ish until 7:55, that would be great. And remember, never louder than beautiful, please. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I think everybody is back. I assume so. Okay, welcome back. Don't put away the Whitaker yet because I'd like to sing through it as a group, but I just want to bring your attention to a few things that we talked about, at least in the tenor sectional, that probably apply to everybody. And again, I'm sure you've heard all of these things already, but just to sort of reiterate. So we have no text on the first page of the music. It's just an ooh, but even so, this requires a little bit of carefulness in how we're going to position the ooh, because it's very easy to get lazy about how we sing ooh. And the truth is, if we just sing ooh, what we're probably doing is allowing our palate to collapse, which doesn't give us this bright choral sound. So what we're going to do is pretend we're singing ah. As a matter of fact, in the tenor sectional, we sang this first page all on ah, and found that vocal placement that has a relaxed jaw and a raised palate so we can get maximum resonance and focus on the inside. And then the second time we sang it through, just barely bring your lips together. And do so in a way that we're not sacrificing the space on the interior. So before we get to the section with the text, I'd like us to all do that. So one time through on ah, please, from the beginning. So soprano, alto, tenor, bass. On ah, please, and make sure when you're singing the ah, you're aware of the space. I reminded the tenors, so those of you who were in BCCO when I was there, you remember that I like to use the analogy of biting into a Honeycrisp apple that's like too big for your mouth to take a bite. And that sensation of lift on the inside needs to be there, and a relaxed position of the jaw. So have that sort of feeling of being halfway into a yawn as you sing. So we're getting rid of the ooh vowel. Sing it on ah, please, from the beginning. 1, 2, 3. Breathe. Breathe. 2, 3. Altos. Lift. Okay, so whatever you just did, that's the placement that we want to find for this piece of music. Now we're going to do the same thing, but just add in the ooh. So can you give me a nice puckered ooh, like it's still Valentine's Day, but not lose that sensation of lift on the inside. So again, from the beginning, this time on ooh, a nice spacious ooh. And be generous with the hairpins here. Oh, and by the way, I should mention, once upon a time, this keyboard had touch sensitivity, which meant that if I played the keys with more force, it came out louder, and vice versa. If I played the keys with a lighter touch, it came out softer. It doesn't do that anymore, so everything comes out the same dynamic. So this will not encourage you to sing expressively. So it's on you. So show me those hairpins, even though the piano isn't doing it. The piano. Nice big breath. Ah with an ooh. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. And generous breath. Slowing. Enjoy these eighth notes. 2, 3. Altos. And so on. So altos on measures 9 and 10, I want you to imagine you have tenuto on all of those eighth notes. So you're not glossing over any of those notes. And it's really beautiful how it plays with the soprano line. Enjoy that. Okay? We don't need to do that again. Let's move on to the text on page two. Oh, hush thee, my baby, the night is behind us. That's all fine. Please, when we get to the bottom of page 2, we're going to completely 86 the R on the words waters and sparkled. Something we discussed in the tenor section is that the word sparkled is problematic because when we speak it, we're lazy about it, and we do that LED, sparkled, is like not really an additional syllable, but just like kind of an ending consonant to spark, sparkled. But we need to actually assign it a vowel because tenors, for instance, are sustaining the second syllable of sparkled for 2 beats, and we can't go to the L because that L pulls up our larynx and causes all sorts of problems we don't want to have to deal with. So Make sure you're taking care of how you pronounce that second vowel in the word sparkled. Sparkled. And then just a little bit of L there at the very end. With text, please, soprano and alto pickup, top of 2, oh hush thee. Here's a 1, 2. Breathe. A lot going on in here. So take care of these eighth notes. Sopranos in measure 28, altos and tenors in measure 29. Plenty of lift to that G natural. And enjoy the moments where the notes crunch with each other. So altos tenuto on this first eighth note. So ya-dum-bum. And then tenors tenuto on the A flat, which crunches with the altos. And so on. So let's go, please, in the hollows. This will be pickup 2, measure 29. Sopranos, altos, eventually tenors, there you are. 1, 2. Ritardando bass. Fermata, breathe. 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and. Breathe. Tenors come out. Tenors, breathe. Plenty of shape, crescendo. 2, 3, 1. Now come back. And. And 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3 and 1 and 2. Hold. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Breathe. Sopranos crescendo. 2 and. And off. Great. I imagine that you all sound absolutely amazing, so congratulations to everybody. Christian, Julia, Ming, Paul, somebody, do you typically take a break or do we go through all the way? We do.
Break.
I think
Usually a
now
break.
is a great time to take a break. Christian, how long?
5 minutes-ish.
5 minutes-ish, sounds great, and we'll come back and work on the Lordson. Thank you very much. Well done, everybody.
audio. Anybody there? Who's there?
Hi, Kitty. It's Christian. How are you?
Oh, hi. How are you?
Good.
I'm glad you mentioned that book about the voice. I heard the interview on NPR, and I think I ordered it from the library.
Oh, neat. I'll have to look for that interview. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. Sounded really interesting. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Considering. I can't complain too much. I don't.
Oh, go ahead, bitch. Why not?
I got my first shot.
Me too.
You mean you can, but you preferably won't.
Right.
That's right.
Do
Be
what?
unreasonable.
Oh,
Now,
be
somebody once said the reason God gave us voices was so we could complain.
Who said that?
I don't know. Somebody I read recently, and well, that's why you have a voice, so you can complain. And I thought, oh, okie doke then.
Jack Benny or somebody like that.
Yes, it does sound like a very Jack Benny type thing to say, doesn't it?
Yeah. Eric's doing great.
Well, he's always very sensitive to nuances.
Yeah, it's really good. I think it for people who haven't heard him before, I'm sure it's a new voice, you know, who are visitors.
Like music, depends on who's voicing and who's hearing. If you get my drift.
Yes.
Is that Aline? I can't see you. Where are you? God, too many things to scroll through here.
Yes, it's me to be ungrammatical.
It's I.
It is I, Hamlet today.
It is I.
It's never difficult to know Aileen's voice.
Yeah,
You have a very
but
speaking voice.
It's a blessing and a curse, I guess.
You always want to have a voice if you're a writer, right?
Well, that's a different kind of voice, isn't it?
I know.
But
maybe,
I have one of those too.
Maybe it overlaps. I don't know.
Well, I know when I was in university, I took a theater degree, and 6 of the credits that I took were in something called oral interpretation.
Uh-huh.
And you learn to read out loud, which was really a great gift. And in fact, I spent 5 years basically reading lessons and things at Grace and singing in their choir. So, but it was a difficult period in Grace's history, let's put it that way. There were many politics.
Mm-hmm. God, I still don't see you up here.
Well, I'm in the dark, as usual.
Dark side.
Yes. Fortunately, I'm standing up, that's why. Normally I'm sitting down, but when I do BCCO, I like to stand up. I don't sing well sitting down.
Yeah.
And I understand why people do it. I mean, some people find it very hard to stand for long periods of time. But as long as I'm able, I'd like to be standing.
I know. I'm entering that vague zone there.
Yeah, well, you sit down for a while. And I had some health issues. The last year we were able to actually meet in person. And I did sit and I managed, but I didn't think my voice was doing as well that way.
I'm just going to keep popping up and down, I guess. If I can do it.
Well, that's exercise too. I'm walking a lot.
Some of those socks. People have been telling me about those socks that keep your
Oh, yeah. Compression socks.
I never thought of those, but maybe that's part of my problem because my feet go to sleep. And
well, part of the difficulty is if you have other problems, as I do, skin issues, you can't really wear them and not have other problems crop up. So, but you know what it's like as we get older, bits fall apart at different rates, and then one thing bumps into another thing, and
I know.
It's all such a fun game, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm 65 and my knees are 95. I don't know how that works. But it's true. I each one of them has a different tag, you know?
Yeah, exactly. How old is this part and how old is that part? Yes. Well, I've done quite well in the pandemic, actually. I found myself back out walking a lot more and hiking a lot more. And it's
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I try to do at least 3 miles a day, and I usually closer to 5.
That's good.
All right.
And you know, you can always sing that song, you know, how do I know my youth is all spent? You know that one?
I don't remember that one, actually, Kevin. You've
Like
muted
up and
yourself.
go, it's gone up and went.
You muted yourself, Kevin, so you're talking, and well, your lips are moving, and even though
that song cheers me quite a bit. I love the Weavers.
Oh, good.
Because they definitely were going through some aging struggles.
All right, here we go. Back to rehearsal.
And we're back.
Let's go ahead and
pass it along to Eric again.
Round 2. Thank you. Let's go back into sectionals and spend some time on the Lordson. So, Christian, could we have please until 8:45?
8:45, did you say?
Yes, please.
Okay, coming up.
Thank you. Buddy, we had a good sectional. In a minute, we'll sing through this piece together. But let me just call your attention to a few things that at least we went on in the tenor section, which I think will be helpful. First of all, this text is one of the appointed texts for Christmas Day. It's a beautiful text and has been set by many, many composers, probably most famously by the Spanish composer Tomás Luis de Victoria. His setting is iconic. Palestrina has also set this text. Of course, there's the Lordson. My personal favorite is by Poulenc. Poulenc has a set of 4 motets, 4 motets for Christmas time, which I've done many, many times, and they all sort of provide a slightly different interpretation of the text, but one thing that is consistent through all of these settings of this piece is this conveying a sense of mystery, not necessarily in the traditional sense that we're used to using that word, but more like awestruck. Because this is in Christendom, obviously the celebration of Christmas is one of the most holy days of the year and one of the most profound miracles that we celebrate. So I think there's that sense of this text and the occasion that is certainly conveyed in this piece, but indeed in all settings of O Magnum Mysterium. I assume you're using just a generic church Latin pronunciation, so let's just go through the text. You can kind of repeat after me from the beginning, O Magnum Mysterium. So as opposed to, like, if this were Germanic Latin, we would say O Magnum, but in this case we glide the G and the N together, O Magnum Mysterium. Keep those vowels closed, Mysterium. Alto's last measure of the first page, et admirabile, everybody else, page 2, sacramentum, close that E a little bit as opposed to sacramentum, sacramentum, et admirabile, sacramentum. Page 3, we have a reiteration of the opening text, O Magnum Mysterium. Page 4, ut animalia viderent Dominum, ut animalia viderent Dominum, iacentem, this is page 5, iacentem in praesepio. Oftentimes we would see that final syllable of praesepio divided onto 2 notes, as if it were praesepio. I think in the Victoria setting, he treats the word that way. Lordson chose to condense it into 1 syllable, which would be very idiomatic in, for example, Italian language, pio. So that's how we treat it. Iacentem in praesepio. So just go straight to the O of praesepio. Measure 37, sopranos, Beata Virgo. I want you to be generous on the V of Virgo. Cuius viscera meruerunt. Page 6, Beata Virgo, portare Dominum Christum, Alleluia. And then altos and tenors have a repeat of the opening text, Vita Animalia, and that's it. And then I think we get an Amen at the end. We don't get an Amen at the end, just Alleluias. The challenge of singing Lordson is that he loves notes that are dissonant. And I think a hallmark of Lordson is taking notes that we would normally find to be dissonant, but couching them in beauty. It gives us this very sort of shimmering effect. The first sound that you hear in this piece, I think, is a Lordson hallmark. And that is, this is basically a D major triad, but with the ninth added in the first tenor parts, and then the basses, instead of singing the root, you're singing the first inversion, so you're singing the third. So this combination of a first inversion triad, in other words, the third and the lowest voice, with an added ninth scale degree, is a Lordson hallmark. Another thing he loves to do is the same thing, but with an added fourth scale degree. Okay, Lordson lives in this sound world, and I think that is what makes him such an instantly recognizable composer. The thing is, that's very difficult to hear as a singer, because very often you're leaping to a note that is dissonant with another note that somebody else is singing. And so it becomes a real challenge in tuning and being able to hear where you're going when the note that you're about to sing isn't consonant with whatever else is going on. So it does take a disciplined approach. The other difficult thing about this piece is that the phrases are very, very long. I tired myself out just now trying to sing the phrases in one breath. And so absolutely you must stagger breathe throughout this piece. One thing Lordson mentioned at this lecture that I attended probably more than a decade ago, well over a decade ago, he said that a lot of choirs don't take into account the tempo. And he said, many people send me recordings for me to listen to, but if I look at the timestamp and see that it's longer than however many minutes he thinks it should be, he says he doesn't listen to it. So the temptation is to go slower than quarter note equals 72, which is not slow, by the way. Quarter note 72 is somewhere in the andante range. So it's very tempting to get overly indulgent in the tempo, but you must keep it moving, and it'll be easier to sing too because the phrases are so long. The other thing he indicated in this interview was that he was influenced by the music of Brahms, and I was a little surprised to hear that because I don't hear Brahms's harmonic language in this piece of music, but he said the way in which he was influenced by Brahms is the long phrase lengths, which of course is a hallmark of the music of Brahms. So there you have it. Let us sing this together all the way through on your own part with text, please. Sopranos, first tenors, second tenors, basses, altos. There's your note when you come in. 1, 2, 3, breathe. Legato. 2 and 3 and 4. Breathe. phrase going. We're not done yet. Now we slow down. Hold. Breathe. Fermato. Now off. Now we have the same music, but one dynamic level higher. We started pianissimo. Now we have piano. Moving on. Ready. Breathe. 2, 3. Breathe. Breathe. Big crescendo. Sostenuto. Connect everything. Don't diminuendo yet. Now we diminuendo. 2 and 3. Hold. Breathe. 1, 2, 3. Sopranos. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 2. Altos, bring this. Breathe. This is still pianissimo. And all tempo. Altos, G sharp, 2, and crescendo. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Diminuendo. Breathe. Not too soft yet. We still have room. One last crescendo and sostenuto. Keep the phrase alive. We're not done yet. Hold. And a little slower. Tenors. Altos. Soprano. Calmly. Tenors. And we're not done yet. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And fermato. Diminuendo. And off. Once again, I assume you all sounded absolutely beautiful. It's really great that you're taking on this music and using this as an opportunity to work on this part of the classical music repertoire. It's wonderful music, and if at every you perform this live in person, I will be there and look forward to hearing you. Folks, let me just say that your assistant conductor, Julia, is off to wonderful things. And as a student, she inspires me in her diligence, her dedication, and her ability to soak up material very, very quickly. It's inspiring. And also, Ming, the mark of a great teacher, I think, is one whose information sticks with you and continues to inform the way that you think about music. And that is certainly the case with Ming. I find myself frequently, when I'm conducting or in rehearsal, making decisions that I know were informed by things that Ming taught me. So I am very, very grateful to Ming and to all of you. And I can't convey to you how special it is for me to be back with you tonight, even in a virtual capacity. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you for a wonderful rehearsal. Ming, thank you very much for the invitation, and I hope to be back with you soon.
Thank you so much, Eric. You are absolutely fantastic. I was sitting in the sectionals, and it's wonderful to hear you rehearse. It's wonderful to hear you sing. It's wonderful to hear you play. And I think the thing that comes across always is how much gratitude we have, obviously, that we have the ability to connect like this online, and even during COVID time, to feel your spirit and feel your musicianship. So thank you, Eric, so much. And next week is the last week we will be looking at these two pieces. And so I think we had a lot of wonderful things done today. And so we're going to move on to the next pieces after next week. So you can start looking at it. I believe I saw some emails. The music for the rest of the semester has been handed out virtually, and also I think in person, if that's been available to you. So Eric, again, thank you so much. Julia and Paul, thank you so much again. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Great. If I could add one plug, sorry, Ming. If you haven't seen, the San Francisco Ballet is offering digital performances, some archival material, and some really exciting new projects. Program 2, which is I think available right now, Ming is directing one of the 3 pieces on this program, a terrific score by Leroy Anderson, and it's absolutely wonderful and very exciting to see Ming in this production. And there's a newly choreographed piece of music, ballet, called Something Color, Ming, Color Forms, which I watched and was just blown away, and then I rewatched it again. So do yourself a favor and buy yourself access to San Francisco Ballet's Program 2 to see Ming kicking ass like he always does, and forgive me, and to see this new piece of music, which is really cool. So thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So we'll see you later, everybody. You can unmute and say goodbye. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. That was very
Nice
good, Eric and
haircut,
Julia.
Eric.
Thank you.
There. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.